Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about my vacation, which is what inspired this sketchbook spread. So I first got the idea to do this when I finished drawing the pigeon, and I was like, hey, I could put all the places that we visited when we went on our cruise. So I started off with Florida, and then we went to Aruba, and then Bonaire, and then Curacao, and then back to Florida. Bonaire was by far my favorite port we went to because it had a lot of snorkeling and stuff that you could do with reefs and fish. And my favorite fish that we saw on that port particularly was the parrotfish because it was very fluorescent. So I felt like that would be the perfect thing to represent Bonaire in my sketchbook. I started out with really bright colors because I knew that I would be able to tone it down later with like a purple, but I wanted to make sure that those bright colors had shown through underneath the colors. So I sketched everything out while I was on the ship, and I didn't bring my markers along with me. I just brought colored pencils. So I waited until we got home from vacation to color them in. I just figured this would be a fun way to remember the trip in my sketchbook. So in these drawings, I used a combination of a Hoo-Hoo alcohol markers and my Copic Chow markers, and then obviously the colored pencil and some fine liners. I just use all kinds of blues, yellows, oranges, and purples to get the fish color that I was wanting. I was wanting the pictures to be a more simplified drawing, so I didn't go in and put every single scale. I only went in and put a few. I think the parrotfish was my favorite drawing on the sketchbook spread, and it's probably why it took me the longest, is because I was having so much fun doing it that I didn't want to stop coloring in all the pretty colors. I'm not gonna lie, I was actually really nervous to color this in because I feel like there's always an ugly stage with any art piece you're doing, and this one was in the ugly stage for quite a while, so it had me nervous. This part was my favorite part because I went over it with like a teal color over the purple, and you could still see the purple coming through, and I feel like this is really where the fish started to come together, and it's where I started to like the piece. But anyways, back to the cruise. So we had brought our GoPro and some snorkel masks to this port, and I'm really glad we did because we were on this dock, and underneath the dock is where all the fish were swimming, and we were able to get really cool videos of all of them. The weather was actually so beautiful every single place we went, and I'm really surprised because I figured the water would be more choppy than it was. Where we were at, Bonaire didn't really have like a beach that went straight to the water. It was a dock, and then there was some rocks and kind of a reef that led into the water. So it was not one beach for like lounging around. It was more so for snorkeling, which I don't mind because the main reason I like going on cruises is to snorkel in the ocean, so it didn't bother me that it wasn't a real sandy beach. I ended up lining the fish with a navy colored pencil, but I didn't like the navy colored pencil as much because it didn't stand out enough, so I ended up going over it with a black fine liner instead, and I like the way that turned out. I wrote the name of every port that we went to above the drawing so that I'd remember like the memories that went along with each stop. I will say I did have to put that plastic cover because the markers bleed through a lot with this sketchbook. It's not really made for markers, I don't think, because there was a lot of bleed through on the other side. And I was kind of sad because I had drawn a pair of hands on the other side and it just had bleed through all throughout. And I tried to use a highlighter to highlight behind them and it ended up working out better where you can kind of see them more, but it's just disappointing when you work that much on something and then the bleed through covers it up. So, on to the next drawing. The reason I put numbers on like by the letters like 1, 2, 3, and 4 is because that's the order we visited them in. It's not necessarily, we didn't go to Bonaire first. We went to Florida, then Aruba, then Bonaire, and then Curacao. But I had drawn those already before I had decided that I was going to do a spread on our Carnival cruise, so that's why I added the numbers so that I could remember which order we went to them in. So for Aruba, there wasn't very much snorkeling, so I was kind of disappointed, but we did end up going to an all-inclusive resort, which was really nice. The pool was super nice. It was really big, and they even had like a swim up bar area. So that's why I drew a drink because that's how I remembered it. Because the beach was a sandy beach, but there was no snorkeling, no reefs, nothing like that for fish to hide under. So there wasn't a lot of fish to look at. I had also gotten sunburnt on the first sea day, so most of the ports I went to, I was wearing like a swim shirt so that I didn't get sunburned even more because I'm super pasty. But this was one of the places that I did wear that swim shirt so that I wouldn't get more burnt. At one point, we were even doing like water aerobics with the whole pool, and it was hilarious and funny because at the time there was a lot of people who had a lot to drink, so it was just fun watching them try to do that. But I had a mango slushy type drink, and that's what I was going to draw in this picture because that's the one thing that I remembered because the mango flavoring was so good. Also, I had to include a hand drawing in one part of the spread because we all know how much I love drawing hands, and I figured the Aruba one was just perfect for that. When I first drew this, it was originally a coffee cup just because that's what I felt like drawing. So I drew the coffee cup and I had drawn a crab above it, and then I went to the pigeon, and that's when I realized, why don't I just draw like the different ports and stuff like that. So I had erased the crab that I drew over the fish, and then I turned that cup into just a glass instead of a coffee cup. I was sad that I erased the crab, but I ended up drawing it again on the other side of the pigeon page. So it's in my sketchbook, it's just not in the place I originally had it, and I ended up having to draw it twice, which was fine. This is probably one of the only pictures that I didn't line the complete thing in the black fine liner. I actually used a brown color erase colored pencil for the line work on the hand. I had a lot of fun writing the names in black marker just because I normally don't do stuff like that, so it was really nice to actually get to write in my sketchbook. Honestly, it's probably going to be a new theme throughout this sketchbook because it is a new sketchbook that I had gotten and I haven't actually decorated it. So when I do that, I'll have another video posted so you can see the stickers and stuff that I put on it. On to the Florida drawing. So the reason I decided to draw a pigeon was because when we got off at the airport, there was so many pigeons, and I mean they were huge. I wasn't used to seeing that many or that large of pigeons, so I just felt like I had to draw that for Florida. I also find it really fun to draw pigeons, so I enjoyed this process even though the pigeon didn't turn out exactly how I wanted to. And I'm sorry, for some reason my camera cut off the top part of the pigeon, but don't worry, you can see the full thing at the very end. This is the part where I wasn't super happy how it turned out because I just didn't like the way the wings looked. But you're not gonna like everything that you create. You just have to find ways to be okay with it. I honestly just love all the colors the pigeons have around their face and neck because all the purpley, green, teal colors that shine through are just so pretty. So I lined the whole thing with my black micron pen, and then I went back and added some extra details with my white jelly roll pen. And I think this made it turn out a little bit better. It still wasn't exactly how I pictured it, but I don't hate it. I was honestly really tired the day we got on the ship because we had driven in that night and we had a really early flight the next morning, but because we got home so late, we just decided to go straight to the airport. So I had been up for 24 hours plus and was just exhausted. So that day, I think I ended up going to sleep at like 5 and still sleeping in till like 9 in the morning the next day. So I was really tired, but honestly, it was well worth it. The cruise was amazing. I had brought a couple books as well to read on the cruise, so I didn't spend the whole time drawing, but I did get quite a few spreads done while I was there because when I wasn't reading, I was drawing. I do love to read, so if you made it this far in the video and have any book recommendations that you would love to recommend to me, I'm open for any because at the moment, I'm just trying to read any book I can get my hands on. And I'm currently reading the Powerless series, which is so good. Highly recommended to anybody. But yeah. So for the curacao picture, I planned on doing like an eel in the middle of the camera because during that trip we went to a beach and I ended up getting on video a spotted eel, but as I started to sketch it out, I didn't really like it, so I decided to scrap that idea and just draw the camera because I did get on video the eel swimming across the bottom of the ocean, like through the rocks and stuff. And at first I was like, is that a snake? Because it moves exactly like a snake does. But as I watched it, I realized it wasn't. It was an eel. But it was so cool. And I enjoyed this port just because of that. But I know that the water was a little more cloudy than it was in Bonaire. So I would recommend Bonaire more than I would Curacao. At this point, I was just grabbing colors because I kind of wanted to be finished with this sketchbook spread because I wasn't too interested in how this one turned out, so I just grabbed a lot of darker teal green colors to color everything in. I think my Copic Chow marker was running dry because it just looked really streaky, and it might as well be because of the paper, but I had to go over it with multiple layers so that it looked smooth. I think we stayed in Curacao for the shortest amount of time because I just remember snorkeling for a little bit and then getting off the beach and going to the really cute shops that they had around. And so we did more shopping than we did like hanging out at the beach, which was nice because it was a change from all the other ports. But I obviously prefer snorkeling, so any other place that had more snorkeling and more fish that you could see, I would have preferred that more. They also had a really good ice cream and gelato shop that was so refreshing after being out in the sun all day, so I would highly recommend going there if you have a chance. The thing I think I like the most about cruises is that if you don't like a port, you're going to be going to another one the next day, whereas if you solely took a vacation to a resort, you're kind of stuck there for the whole week. Obviously, you can travel around the town, but you can't really go as far as you can on a cruise ship. Not to mention, they clean your cabin every day at a certain time. They go in and clean and make your bed and give you towel animals. And everybody's so nice on the ship. Like all the people that work there, they're just so nice to talk to. And even the food was really good this time. We had gone to a seafood place on the ship, and oh my goodness, it was the best seafood I've ever had in my life. I think we also were on one of the biggest ships Carnival had, so I don't think I even went to every food place they had on board because there was just so many and it was really hard to decide. But I think the seafood place was my favorite, and there was also a sushi place on there that was really good. I can't remember what it's called, but they had really good rolls, like sushi rolls, and even they had a ramen that I really liked. I forgot to mention, but the cruise ship that we were on had a stage like right when you walked on board, and it was like 3 stories high, and they did amazing entertainment. Like, I think one night it was called Celestial Strings, and there was a violin trio that played the music while everybody danced, and it was by far my favorite because I love violin music. And the next night they did like a carnival themed, I think it was called Under the Big Top, where there were aerialists and they were being lifted. There was like 4 or 5 of them. It was so cool. And as far as entertainment goes on the Carnival cruise ships, they're unmatched. And I would watch those shows like 2 or 3 times and still not be tired of them because that's how good they were. But anyways, I'm definitely going to be on more cruises, so there's most likely going to be more videos like this. So let me know what you think about this style of video because it's kind of different than what I normally do. But honestly, I don't mind just chit-chatting about life and stuff like that. So let me know what you think. So yeah, this is the finished sketchbook spread. These are all the things that I drew for representing each port, and I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video, and see you in the next one.